of flights that are on the ground, ferrying empty airplanes back into position later today. And again, no estimate on reopening the airport for commercial flights until we have a better handle on both the airline responsibility here and the airport operator responsibilities being fulfilled. We've already had an air carrier meeting. We held it this morning. This work is underway, and we'll be meeting with the air carriers later this afternoon to update and keep the traveling public updated relative to the reopening of Logan Airport. Thank you.
All right, you want me to go?
The next speaker is Colonel John DeFava, Massachusetts State Police.
Thank you, Director. Good morning. The Massachusetts State Police is prepared to provide all necessary resources to assist the Massport Authority in reaching and surpassing those new security measures as mandated by the FAA. These resources will include additional personnel, special and tactical units such as explosive ordnance disposal personnel, and canines that are capable of sniffing out explosives. These measures will stay in place indefinitely to ensure the safety of the public at the airport. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charlie Prouty, FBI Special Agent in Charge, Boston.
Thank you, Director. I want to reassure all New England citizens that your law enforcement is aggressively investigating this horrific event. First of all, my heart goes out to the victims and the families in this tragedy. Because this appears to be a terrorist attack, the FBI will be taking lead investigative status in this. We set up a command post in the FBI office in Boston yesterday as soon as we received notice of the hijacking. This is a joint command post with State Department, ATF, Customs, the Massachusetts State Police, OSI, Boston Police Department, Department of Transportation, U.S. Secret Service, and the U.S. Marshals represented. We're also involved in Massport's command post at Logan Airport. We'll continue to man these command posts and continue our joint investigations around the clock until all investigations have been completed. We are coordinating our investigation with FBI headquarters and with other federal agencies. A website and a toll-free tip line has been established.
Logan Airport, the airport where hijackers successfully hijacked two commercial airliners yesterday. They're talking about the number of regulations they will follow by the FAA. In addition to that, further strength they will put in place to make the public safe, among other things. They're now going to have uniformed state police officers joining the security officers on duty. Logan Airport has taken a deep hit by public perception today. There is a feeling, according to Bill Delaney, that security there has been loose in the past, and I think the fact that the Massport announced today that they will do no more curbside check-in, that they will remove any vehicles that are standing within 300 feet of the curb from the area, pointedly shows how seriously they're taking the scrutiny of the nation. Before I go on, I just want to share one little fact with you that is being reported in the Boston Herald. The Boston Globe has some of this information, but not all of it. It is now suspected that the hijackers were able to carry off what they did by not bringing guns on board the two planes in Boston, but by using shaving kits and other carry-on luggage to smuggle knife-like weapons made up of plastic handles embedded with razor blades. Now, these are sources familiar with the investigation talking to the Boston Herald, and that is consistent with what apparently a flight attendant cell phone calls indicated as well. Now, I want to show you one of the latest pictures of what is going on here in New York City. You have the USS George Washington now moving into New York Harbor. It will patrol the waters off of New York City. In addition to that, a number of other naval vessels are on the move right now. Some headed towards New York City, some coming to the Washington, D.C. area to even help with some of the medical challenges that both cities are confronting at the moment. It is interesting to note that President Bush announced earlier today that he had asked for a spending resolution that would enable the United States to spend, quote, whatever it takes to deal with the magnitude of this horrendous tragedy that is confronting our nation. And I will have some more details for you in a moment or two. Back to Darren, who joins us from Atlanta.
Paula, thank you very much. Of course, people across the country are looking toward the rescue efforts that are taking place. We're showing a live picture now from New York City. As we mentioned, and Paula has told us earlier, about 11 people have been rescued so far. As time goes on, fire officials have explained to us it becomes more difficult to do their job of rescuing. However, hope and prayers from across the country going towards that rescue site, both in New York City and also a hope toward the Pentagon. Leon.
Well, Darren, you know, the only site New York is not the only site that we have been keeping our eyes on. Washington as well. Let's go there now. Bob Franken checking in from the Pentagon. Bob?
Oh, Leon, we're about to show you something quite remarkable. You, of course, have heard that every effort will be made to investigate this case. There will be an exhaustive search for evidence. Well, we just had a demonstration of that right in front of our cameras. The FBI obviously trying to make the point for the world to see. FBI agents fanned out just about 20 feet from where we are right now, fanned out in a grassy area that was close to the path of the airplane that crashed into the Pentagon, looking very closely at the ground, sweeping the ground, so to speak, looking for anything that might be relevant, looking for even the smallest little piece of information that might provide some evidence that would be useful in the investigation of this particular part of this the three planes that crashed into various buildings. This one was an American Airlines 757. It crashed into the Pentagon about 26 hours ago. 26 hours ago. The investigation is going full tilt, as is the effort to try and see just how bad the damage is inside and just how many casualties there are. We're hearing now that they've located maybe scores of bodies. By scores, I mean under 100 located, but perhaps not removed from the building. Pentagon is not giving out actual figures. Of course, there have been estimates that there could be several hundred people whose lives were lost here, although various Pentagon officials do not in fact agree that it's going to be that high. But while that search is going on, and it's very fitful because of the precarious nature of the building, many of the families and loved ones of some of the friends and loved ones of the people who are missing inside can only stand here and watch.
I told her that her father was missing and that when I knew, I would tell her. If he does come out in any type of capacity, that I will be one of the first ones there.
They sent in some dogs, but that there was no sign of life. But that, what else have they, oh, that it might be several days before they can even start pulling out bodies.
And Leon, while the search is being conducted in a very painstaking way, firemen are still trying to put out the blaze, which on a spot basis has spread throughout much of the building. Leon?
All right, thanks to Bob Franken, standing by there at that focal point for us there in Washington, the Pentagon. Now, up to New York and Paula.
All right, we're going to head back to what is the second news conference of the day held by New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Let's listen in. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to listen in right now because we're having audio difficulties. I think we need to make everyone in the journalism field is a little hampered today because the number of streets blocked, and it's tough for our equipment to get in where it needs to get in.
And let's hope. Yes, we have a tremendous number of volunteers. We have more volunteers than we know what to do with right now. But please continue to volunteer because we're going to need you tomorrow and the next day and the day after. And, you know, our firefighters and police officers are going to get pretty exhausted after a period of time. So the outpouring of volunteers has been tremendous, and we're very, very thankful for that. And the city, the people of the city, their spirit is tremendous. And I said that yesterday, and I'll say it again. This city is the greatest city in the world. It has the greatest people, and a bunch of cowardly terrorists can't make us fearful. We're stronger than they are, we're better than they are, and people of the city proved it yesterday, they're going to prove it today, and they're going to be a great example of what Americans are like. Thank you.
City giving New Yorkers a great deal of credit for Okay, you've just heard the mayor of New York City giving New Yorkers a great deal of credit for their outpouring of support. It might be interesting to remind viewers last night that in fact it was Senator John Warner who said yesterday will go down as one of the worst days in history. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said in the end it may be our finest hour, and he was referring to the collective strength that we have seen exhibited in this nation as we all come together to try to get a better grasp of what this is that has happened to our nation. The mayor saying there's been such an outpouring of support to help in some of the cleanup operations. He's turned people away, but he wants them to know he probably will need their help in the days to come. One thing, too, that the medical facilities are desperate in need of is in blood, and apparently New Yorkers are turning out by the thousands again today to donate blood. Once again, I think, as the mayor said, this shows the strength and the indomitable spirit of the folks who live here. We're going to show you one more time a live picture of what the rescue operation continues to look like at this hour. Gary Tuchman has been at Ground Zero all day long. He's had the opportunity to interview police officers, firefighters, paramedics. Gary, anything new?
Well, Paula, many of the emergency workers here are truly starting to seriously realize something, that they have their work cut out for them. There may be hundreds or thousands of bodies. There also may still be survivors. There were two 110-story buildings that plummeted behind me and a 47-story building. And all that wreckage is 3 blocks behind me. And some of the wreckage, according to New York officials, is 100 feet tall. And you also have, and this is something we tend to forget over the last 25 hours, there are 2 huge aircraft here that are in many pieces. As a matter of fact, there's a building right behind me. It's hard for you to see in the smoke, but it's before where the World Trade Center used to stand. The World Trade Center, the South Tower, stood where you see that skeleton right there right now. It's a skeleton of poles. 2 buildings in front of it on the right is where authorities told us one of the jet's engines landed. It landed on the roof and then fell on the street, and it's already been cleaned up, according to officials. An interesting little factoid here. The largest landfill in the world is in Staten Island, New York. It's called the Fresh Kills Landfill. For many years, New Yorkers, particularly Staten Islanders, were telling New York City, please close it down. It makes Staten Island smell. It's the largest landfill in the world. And Rudy Giuliani, a couple of years ago, decided he would close it down. A couple of years ago, it shut down completely. There was never supposed to be any more garbage put into it. However, it's now been reopened to take the wreckage of this disaster that has changed New York City forever. Paula, back to you.
Gary, your audio isn't all that clean right now, but if you mentioned this, pardon me because I didn't hear it, could you please update us again on the number of folks who have been successfully taken from the rubble of what used to be the World Trade Centers?
What we are being told right now by rescue authorities who are on the scene, and one thing we must point out, we have not seen these rescues ourselves, and normally we love as reporters to see things with our own eyes to know we can verify them. There's a lot of nervous people here, a lot of scared rescuers, a lot of heroic rescuers. We have to rely on what they're telling us right now in a very confusing time. But they are telling us that 9 people have been rescued from the rubble. 6 of them New York City firemen, 3 of them police officials from the Port Authority of New York. The Port Authority is the agency that owns the World Trade Center building and runs the airport here in New York City. Paula?
Because we have some new developments coming from Atlanta to report. Darren?
All right, Paula, thank you very much. We want to take our viewers now live to Pennsylvania. It is a news conference with the FBI with the latest on the plane that crashed there. Let's listen in.
Wallace Miller. We don't have much to add from yesterday's press conference. However, we will go over some of the things that we are doing. Presently, we have over 200 personnel on site from the FBI, Pennsylvania State Police, ATF, NTSB, FAA, Postal, IRS, Civil Air Patrol, the Somerset County Coroners I mentioned, as well as representatives of United Airlines, their aircraft scene team. This morning, members of our Hazardous Materials Response Unit conducted an assessment of the crime scene, particularly the area around the crater. Their assessment was to determine levels of toxicity and flammability